What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. I'm Jeff. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be going over a good chunk of the whiskeys that I currently have open in my collection. So it'll be an interesting one. Stick around. All right, so we'll start things off with an apology. I did not post a video on Monday. I try and put out two every week, as many of you know. I couldn't do it. As you might have noticed, I'm not in the same place. I just moved and I'm in the process of setting everything up. It's a little bit stressful, but luckily for you guys, I'm an entertainer above all else. And despite everything that's going on right now, I figured I've got to get something out to you guys, even though it might be a little bit low effort. And by low effort, I mean more low effort than usual, the lowest. And since I've got all my bottles out, I figured, all right, good opportunity. Let's just go through all of the open bottles that I have. Now, this is not all of the open bottles that I have in the world because I tend to do a lot of my drinking with friends, as I think most of us would. And a lot of my open bottles that I've split with friends are not here. So we're just going over the ones that I have myself here at home. And I did a count of all my open bottles the other day, and it turns out I've got around 75, which is not a little, but I figured that's too many to put in one video, so I cut it up, and the way I did that is we'll have different regions. Today's region is going to be Islay and the Islands. Now, before we jump into the list, I do want to give you guys a quick reminder. I think there's about 9 days as of posting this video that's left for you guys to vote for the OSWAs, the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. So if you haven't done that yet, I highly encourage you to go check out the website, which is in the description below, if I remember to put it there. Also, as usual, guys, I have a mystery pour in my glass. You can't see it right now, but it's right over there, and it's very mysterious. You should stick around to the end of the video. I'll share with you what that is. But let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into all of these bottles. In the meantime, if you'll kindly, I usually point to where the likes go. If you kindly give a like down below, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, so we're going to kick off this pretty long list with Kilchoman. And surprisingly, this is the only Kilchoman that I have on the go right now. And that's surprising because I love the brand. I usually would have more. I do have a couple other open Kilchomans at my buddy's place, but here on me, I just have the cognac cask matured one. And to be honest, that works out because if I were to choose one bottle from them, this is probably one of my favorite things they put out. This is absolutely beautiful stuff. I reviewed it not long ago. You can go check out that video, you know, on the internet. Yeah, really good. Recommended. Next up, we'll check stuff from Ledjig / Tobermory from the Isle of Mull. We'll start things off with this Tobermory right here, which is matured in something. Manzanilla. This is a Manzanilla finish, 46.3% non-chill filtered natural color. This was recommended by a friend whose opinion I respect deeply. This one's weird. It's very dirty. It's very funky. I kind of see what he likes about it, but for me, it's just not really my go-to style. Also, it's a limited release. I don't know if I'll review this one. You can let me know if you want to see a review on this one down below in the comments, but yeah, weird. Next up is Ledjig, which for me is the better line out of Tobermory. This one is the Ledjig 9-year-old, which is Bordeaux red wine cask matured. This one is a cask strength. It's 56.8%. I have looked at this one before. I think it's travel retail exclusive, and it is another special release. I'm not sure if you can still find it around because it's from last year or 2 years back. Either way, this was beautiful stuff. I reviewed it. If you can get your hands on it, really good. Finally, my last bottle out of Tobermory is the Ledjig 18, which at this point is pretty much legendary. One of the finer 18-year-olds on the market. If you like your sweet peat, this is a great one. It's got that kind of like funky element to it as well. Really rich, really just interesting, characterful, satisfying stuff. And it's not too expensive. If you haven't tried it, check it out. Next up, we're moving on to Talisker, another island distillery, and one of my favorites. Now, I realize I've got very fancy Taliskers here, and that's not me buying them. It's they've all been donated, or 3 of the 4 here have been donated by a guy named Alan, who is a local. He's a fan of the channel. He's a good friend. Alan, thank you very much. These are all fantastic. We'll start with the one I bought, which is the cheapest one because, you know, poverty. I've got Talisker 11. I think this is the 2022 release. It's the jellyfish one. It's cask strength. A really straightforward belter of a Talisker. It's good. Next up, we've got the 18, but this is the old 18 prior to the rebranding. Now, if you look at the 10, for example, the new 10 is not as good as it was back when Talisker had these labels. So I can't vouch for the new 18s. I can tell you they're more expensive. I don't know if they're as good, better, worse. I have no comment there, but the pre-rebranded 18-year-old, absolutely beautiful stuff. Didn't get enough love, especially when it was at the cheaper end. I mean, it was never cheap whiskey, but it was more affordable back in the day. I wish I'd bought more of these. Next up, Talisker 25. Now, this is another one I've reviewed on the channel. This is on the much lighter, more subtle, delicate end of Talisker. I do like it. It's obviously much more expensive. Is it worth the money? That's a completely separate conversation, but it is very fancy. It is very delicious. Finally, we've got the Talisker 30-year-old, which is stupid expensive. I could never afford this on my own. Again, massive thank you to Alan. I don't know, what are you doing? Why are you giving me this stuff? Delicious. Now, the 25 I mentioned was more like light and delicate. This one keeps that delicacy. It keeps all the complexity, but it's much more bold. It's much more substantial than the 25. And it is better. Is it worth the money? Well, well. Next up, the last few bottles from the islands that aren't Isla. My next brand is Highland Park. A very divisive brand, not for everyone. I do like their house style, but they are very hit and miss. We'll start with one of my absolute favorites, a classic from years ago. This is the Dark Origins. This got discontinued way back in 2017. Luckily, it is still around in some places here in Taiwan, and it's not too expensive. Now, I hear that a lot of the stuff in here is around 15 years of age, but it is formally no age stated. Higher ABV than most Highland Parks. This is 46.8%. Beautiful, richly sherried. This is such a good dram. It's tragic that they discontinued it. Hope they bring it back someday. Really good. Next up, we have the standard 18-year-old. Now, this is one I found on sale about 6 months ago. I grabbed it immediately, took it home, opened it, and fell in love right away. Now, to be fair, I've heard this is not as good these days. This bottle that I have is from way back in 2017, so it's old, and from what I hear, the new batches are not as good. I can't tell you if that's true or not. All I can tell you is that I am thoroughly enjoying this one. Again, very deeply, richly sherried. It's complex, very, very subtle hints of peat. Love the house style. Yes, it could be stronger. It's 43%, but great core flavors. Next up, we have the other 18. So this one is the travel retail one, and this one is 46%. So this one gives us what we want. It is natural color. I'm not sure about chill filtration. I assume it isn't. And 46%. This is a beautiful whiskey. Is it better than the other one? Yeah, it is. It's got a slightly different flavor profile to it too. So I don't think it's like exactly the same formula. I could be wrong there, but in the side-by-sides, this one always comes out on top. It is more expensive. Is it worth the price bump? Maybe not, but yeah, really good. And finally, we have the fancy one, which is almost done, sadly. This one is the 21-year-old. Now, this one is another one that comes in at 46%. They only put out so many bottles every year. I think it's like 2021 release, the one I have here. Really good, really fancy, really expensive. Yeah. And this is yet another one that I did not buy. Guess who? That's right, Alan did. I would love to lord these bottles over you and talk about how much better I am than you. But I can't. I'm not better than you. But Alan is. He's much better than all of us. Next up, we're finally moving over to Isla. I've got a couple of frogs here with me. We'll start with this one here. This one is the Carchus. Now, this is the 2023 release. I don't have the 2024 yet, and I can't buy it here because that release actually is not sold locally. It is an international release, but for some reason, we don't get it here in Taiwan. The only reason I got this one is my buddy Jack in California brought this over when he visited. Thank you very much, Jack. This is beautiful stuff. Highly recommended, and I hear, again, 2024 is great. If anyone wants to send me that one, you know, yeah. And listen, I do realize that it's a bit tacky for me to ask you guys to send me free bottles in the middle of a video, but I did it anyway. Next up, Lefroy 25. Alan, thank you very much. This is delicious. All right, finally, let's move on to the last brand that I have open. Again, just here in my house. I have a lot more open at my buddy's place, but here at mine, we've got both laddies left to go through. We'll start with the classic laddie, which is a classic. This is another one that people either love or hate, and for different reasons. Some people say it's just too bland and uninteresting, which for me, I don't really see, but okay. Other people say it's a little bit too weird, too funky, too off-putting. Now that, I don't agree with that, but I see where they're coming from there. But oppositely, you'll have people like me who absolutely love this stuff. I think it's very interesting. I think it's very characterful. I think it's a great bang for buck. It's fully crafted. It's not expensive, and it's an interesting whiskey. So Another one, again, I think Whiskey of the Year for 2022, I had this one. Another one I highly recommend. Next up, another one from Bruichladdie's unpeated line, which is known as Bruichladdie. I have the Laddie 8. Now, this one I believe is a travel retail exclusive. Similar specs. The only difference is this one gives us a proper age statement. It is different from the classic Laddie, and to be honest, I think I prefer the classic Laddie, but I might have moods where I prefer this one. They're very close. This one is a little bit more oaky, and it's not quite as funky. So if the funk kind of puts you off with the classic Laddie, you might get along better with this one. Either way, it's a good one. So if you're traveling, if you're in an airport, not too expensive, good one to pick up. Next up, we're getting a little bit more obscure, so I won't spend too much time on it, nor will I review this one because it's a Taiwan exclusive. I've got a single cask Bruichladdie, 2007, 14 years old, matured in Sauternes casks, 56.8%, vibrant, delicious, rich, beautiful stuff. Now, again, not one you'll be able to find, probably, but if you can get your hands on any single cask Bruichladdie, they can be very interesting, very beautiful whiskeys. So keep your eyes out for those. And last from the unpeated line, I have the 18-year-old, which is a release from earlier this year. This is one I got very excited about. It took a while to reach Taiwan, and it only ended up coming to Costco, of all places. So I grabbed it, and I've opened it. I have not reviewed it yet, so I'm not going to tell you too much. No spoilers, but do I like it? Yes, I do, and I will be talking about it soon. Moving on to the peated stuff, which is Port Charlotte. I have a few of the Cask Exploration series, which is a series I've talked about a lot before on the channel. I really like it. I think it's interesting. I think they have great cask play. And one of my favorites from that line is the OLC01. Among other things, it's been matured in Oloroso casks, which has been highlighted in the title OL. The titles are weird, but the whiskeys are good. Next up, and from the same line, we have the SC01, which again, among other things, is matured in a particular type of cask that they highlight in the title. The S here stands for Sauternes, not quite as heavy on the red wine, sherry type flavors as a lot of the other releases. Very, very good. By the way, all of these are fully natural cask strength. Some of them are tough to find. This one I think is from 3 years back. So it might not be around in your market. Even here in Taiwan, it's getting pretty tough to find. So if you can find this one, it's a good one. And last from Bruichladdie, Port Charlotte. And last for today's list, I have the MC01. The M here stands for Marsala, among other things. So that's the cask that they're highlighting. 9 years old, cask strength as the other ones are. Very, very good. Wonderful stuff. Honestly, anything from this series, worth checking out. Okay, that was it. That was all of the bottles, the open bottles that I have from Islay or from the islands. Now, this is just about, I would say, over half of my collection. All of what I've got here in my house. I've got a bunch more at my friend's place. I'll see if at some point, I don't know how to arrange that, but at some point, maybe I can share those bottles with you as well. But these are the ones that I have here. You guys can let me know down below in the comments what you think of what I've got. And finally, last but not least, if you guys stuck around for the mystery pour, I've got a very popular bottle. A lot of people are talking about it right now. You could say it is a hyped up bottle. And it is the Ardnaho 5. Now, I did a vote on Patreon a while back, and I asked my patrons to choose a bottle that I should buy for the sake of review. And it wasn't even that close. This one won by a good chunk of the vote. People are talking about it. And yeah, I'll be talking about it very soon on the channel. So stay tuned for that. All right, that brings us to the end of the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, you can leave your comments down below. You can let me know what you think of my collection. And yeah, again, I apologize. I'm still setting everything up and unboxing, and I do not have a studio ready to go. I probably won't for several more weeks just because I don't have like a computer desk yet, and that's been ordered from like China or somewhere. So it'll be a few weeks before everything's set up. In the meantime, we're going to have some more impromptu videos like this where I'll go through the rest of my collection, which is just on the wall over there. Kind of a different thing for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. And at some point, we will get back to better content. I mean, still mediocre, but better than this. See you next time.